Okay, I thought I'd give you an update on the shop today, what I'm doing. I'm replacing this cylinder. This is the one that leaked on me a while back, and I thought, well, I don't have any projects going on right now, so let's pull this cylinder off and reseal it. I'm not sure how to do it, so it's going to be sent out. I did pull it apart, and it looks like it's got rust in it, so I have a feeling it's going to have to be replaced. But we'll let them decide that when they get it. I really like this lift, so I really need to get this fixed. But what I've been doing in the shop since I haven't had any projects is I've basically been cleaning the shop. And trust me, my shop needed cleaned. I've never seen so many spiders and spider webs. I've left this go for about 4 years now. And I just started from one end of the building and started working my way all the way around it. Can't get way up high, but we can get along the edges. 8 feet, 10 feet up. And this is what I've been doing for the past week. It's just cleaning, and cleaning. There's not much about organize, unless you consider organizing chaos. But my sandblaster had a huge mess everywhere. This probably took the longest to clean up, to get this all taken care of. And air compressor, changed the oil in it, air filter, took care of that. Clean tank, my tire tools, cleaned them all up and covered them up. Hopefully keep the dirt and dust off from it for a while. And just kind of threw things along the wall, get them out of the way. Like I say, it's organized chaos. I know where things are. My shelves, though, I'm going to have to get rid of some stuff. My next move is, if I don't decide what I'm going to do with that Mustang, is I'm going to start going through all these cabinets, getting these cabinets cleaned out and everything. But before, all you'd see is spider webs everywhere. Spider webs, spider webs, spider webs. So we've got this pretty well cleaned up, and like I say, organized. That cylinder's over here. I did pull it apart, like I said, and the inside there's some rust, and that makes me believe it's going to need replaced in order to take care of it. As for the Mustang, I've asked opinions, and I've gotten them. Positives, negatives, cost-wise, not worth it, worth it, resto-mod it. I am not going to do any of that. I've been really thinking about it, and if I can't make up a decision on a project, and this is the first time I haven't, I think it's time just to let it go. My wife says just hang on to it for a while and make a decision down the road. I think I'm just going to throw it up for sale, and if somebody buys it, move on. If no one buys it, then maybe go ahead with it. But my biggest concern on this project is I'm not going to be happy with that 6-cylinder. So if I'm going to do all this rust repair underneath this car, the frame rails, the floors, and fix all that, I'm going to put a V8 in it. And if I put a small block Ford in it, I'm probably not going to leave the 3-speed in it. I'll probably go up. And if you're going to go ahead and put a small block Ford and a 4-speed or 5-speed in it, then you got to change the rear end out. And now you're way into it. So that's why I haven't made up my mind yet. It's just cost-wise, I really don't want to throw that much money into a Mustang. Not to kick Mustangs, so all you Ford people out there, don't freak out. But yeah, I'm still on the fence, but we're just going to wait it out. Just got a phone call from the guy on the Trans Ams. He's coming on the 6th. So January 6th, these should be rolling out of here. And I can say goodbye to them, my parts cars. And then I can get that lift freed up and cleaned up, because it too, spider webs all over the place. And I really need to lube up a bunch of stuff and get this, probably the hydraulic fluid changed. But yeah, once those cars are gone, then I'll go from there. I think I'll be back in a little bit and throw in a car story or something. Be back in a sec. Okay. Um, like I said, I thought I'd tell you a car story or two. One my wife likes to tell. She thinks it's kind of funny. My local salvage yard, junkyard, I get along with the owners. I've been friends with the owners for, I don't know, 40 years, maybe 50. I've seen it pass hands 3 times, and it stayed in the family all the way through. But the one that owns it now is about my age. He took it over when his dad passed away. And he calls me whenever an older Buick, Olds, or Pontiac shows up. He knows I'm a big Pontiac fan. So if any 350s, 400s, or 455s show up in any kind of car, he'll give me a call and say, hey, I've got this Pontiac motor. Or, hey, I got this Cutlass sitting here. You know, he always calls me when one of the classics come in that someone has scrapped and gives me first shot at him, which is fantastic. Really nice guy. And one day I was working and I came home and there was a note on the counter saying, call the junkyard. And I told my wife, I said, what's up? What's Doug need over there? You know, you got another great car for me or what? She goes, you need to call him. She goes, it's kind of funny. I said, kind of funny? I said, you got more than one car for me? She says, no. She goes, I got to tell you, it's the first I've ever had. He's looking for parts. She goes, since when does a junkyard call you looking to buy parts? And I said, well, you know, he knows what I'm into, and maybe he got something in and he wants to fix it up. Stuff. She goes, I don't know. She goes, I just find it hilarious that a junkyard would actually call you looking for stuff. And I called Doug and asked him what was up, and he said he had a customer that was looking for a Pontiac 455. And he knew he had sold me some in the past, and normally I don't get rid of my 455s. And I said, well, I've got 2 or 3 of them sitting out here. I said, it depends on what he wants. Does he want one to completely rebuild? Does he want one that turns over by hand? Does he want from oil pan to carb? You know, what's he looking for? He says, well, I don't know. He just says he has to have a Pontiac 455. And he goes, here's his number. You give him a call. I called the guy, and we worked out a deal, and sure enough, he came over and bought one of my 455s from me. But my wife still tells that story whenever we go to car shows about a junkyard calling me looking for stuff. She thinks that's hilarious, you know. So, but it is kind of a funny story. My other story has been a good 40 years ago. I think I was only married maybe a year, and to be honest with you, I struggled when we got married. We didn't have money for anything. I mean, I was lucky if I had money for gas to get to work. You know, we really were struggling. And most people do, I guess. And I had seen where there was a Superbird for sale in Michigan. I was in some publication. You know, we have a thing around here called the Peddler's Post at the time. And you look in there and people would be selling parts and stuff. And a guy had Superbird for sale. And I told my wife, I said, hey, I'm going to call him. She goes, you know, we can't afford to buy another car. There's just no way in the world that we're ever going to be able to afford a car. I said, well, I know I can get a loan, and I know I can make the payments, and I know it's rough, and I know it's really tough. I said, let me just see what's going on with the Superbird, because she knew I've always wanted a Superbird, even though she thinks they're ugly. And I thought, you know, why not? So I called the guy in Michigan, and he said he had 2. They're both 70 Superbirds. The first one, he said, is a rusted out piece of crap. He says all numbers matching. It's all there. It's just rusted out. He goes, the wing's there, the nose is there. He says it's in really, really, really bad shape, but it is numbers matching. He said the other one, he was pro streeting it. He said it's all tubbed. It's got great big tubs underneath the back. He goes, the floors have been cut up for the tubs, and he never did anything with it. He said it's got a roll cage in it, and he was just screwing around with it. He goes, but it was a real Superbird. And I said, oh, well, what do you want for the original rusted out one? He goes, oh no, this is a package deal. You have to buy both Superbirds. And I said, man, I got to be honest with you. I don't think I'm going to have money to buy two Superbirds. And he said, well, here's the deal. I want $20,000 for both of them. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even afford $20,000. You know, why did I even call this guy? Why am I wasting his time? And I said, well, can you give me a couple days and I'll call you back? And he said, well, you know, you're the only one that's called on him so far, but, you know, if someone comes along, cash them, I'll sell them. I said, understood, sell them, don't wait for me. Well, I called a friend of mine that always seemed to have money. He's pretty well off, and he was always into cars. And I called him up, said, hey, I got a chance to buy two Superbirds. I said, but I got to buy them both, and the guy wants $20,000 for them. I said, is there any way you'd be willing to go halves with me? You know, you put in 10 grand, I'll come up with the other 10 grand somehow, some way, and, you know, get two Superbirds for 20 grand. And if you're willing to do that, you can pick out which one you want, and I'll take the other one. I said, doesn't matter if you want the Pro Street or if you want the rusted out one, I'll take what's left over, because I really think these are going to be some good investments down the road. And he's like, well, you know, I really don't want to invest in anything like that. I'm not a Mopar guy. He goes, I'm GM. He said, and they're ugly. He goes, they're just ugly and I don't know anybody who want one. I said, well, you know, my wife feels the same way, they're ugly. I said, to be honest with you, I'm going to struggle to come up with 10 grand anyhow. I said, hell, I don't even have two nickels to rub together. I said, but somehow, some way, I'll find a way. And he's like, nah, I'm just not going to do it. He goes, I'm not going to put 10 grand into a car, you know, especially a Superbird. And I said, okay, I understand, no problem. And I told my wife, I said, it's just not meant to be. I said, I really couldn't afford the 10 grand anyhow. I would have to really get loans and ask friends for money, and it would be kind of embarrassing going around asking for money to buy a car that people don't think I need. And I said, you know, if it was meant to be, it would have worked out. So I'm just going to pass on him. I called the guy and told him, hey, not going to happen. He said, no problem. But to this day, I don't know what happened to those cars. Back then, that was a hell of a deal. Today, it's even an unbelievable deal. But when we go to shows and we're looking at cars and stuff, and if my friend happens to be there, he will always bring that story up about how he was such an idiot and didn't go in on these two Superbirds and had a chance to own a real Superbird for 10 grand. And he still freaks out about that today. I've never, ever since then asked anybody to invest in a car with me. I've never asked anyone to help me. I've never asked for any handouts, nothing like that. If I can't afford them, I don't buy them. This guy came to me with a Nova. Said he had a 70 Nova he wanted to sell. Nothing special, just a regular Nova. Said it had a little V8 350 in it. He goes, not an SS. Excuse me. And he says, he hears I buy cars. And I said, yeah. And he says, hey, you know, I want $20,000 for it. And at that point, I looked at him and said, you know, I'm really sorry. I don't pay what a car's worth. I said, not to be mean, not to be, you know, making you mad or anything. I said, but there's another 100 people out there asking $20,000 for their car. And their car might be better than yours. I said, I buy cars when they're a good deal. I said, I very seldom go out hunting for a certain particular car I gotta have. The cars find me. That's the way I look at it. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Like that Mustang, for example. I went and looked at that thing a year ago, and I made the guy an offer. And he basically laughed at me and said, no way, you know, I got more than that in it. I'm like, it's not worth more than that. And he said, well, I'm not going to sell it. I said, it's fine. And fast forward a year after Thanksgiving, I assume his family probably got together and they were discussing that Mustang, because I got a phone call after Thanksgiving asking if I was still interested in that Mustang. And I said, like, I thought you sold that by now. He's like, no, we did not sell it. And I made him an offer $500 less than I offered him last year. And he kind of freaked out. And he goes, you offered me $500 more for it last year, man. What's going on? I said, it's not worth it to me anymore. I'm not hunting for a Mustang. I'm not needing a Mustang. You know, it's just, you know, back then, yeah, hey, I was looking for one. I'll give you the money for it. But now I'm not. I said, it's not something I have to have, you know. And he's like, he's kind of a little upset. And a few days go by, and we end up working out a deal kind of in the middle of what I offered him and what he wanted. And I said, you know, I'll take it. I brought it home, and I still think it's worth what I paid for it. If it wasn't a deal, I wouldn't have bought it. That's just the way I am. That's what I'm trying to tell people. I understand your car's worth more money. You know, take it to a dealer and sell it. You know, take it to somebody that's actually looking for that car and sell it. Me, they come to me. You know, if a car finds me, I have got to get a really good deal, because if I can get it somewhere else for the same price, I'm going to go there anyway. So if you want to sell your car, it sucks, but I'm going to give you less for it, but you're going to sell it. You know, it's like these 3 Trans Ams. I sold them to one guy. He's coming on the 6th to pick them up. We've already talked this morning. You know, he's going to pick them up. We got it all set up. I can make more money off these cars parting them out or selling them individually. There's no doubt in my mind. The parts in these cars are worth more than I'm selling in the cars for. But to me, one person's all I got to deal with to get rid of everything. One person. It's worth taking less money for that one person than it is for me to sit there and put this stuff on Marketplace or eBay or whatever and spend a year trying to part these out and deal with people. Hey, I'm going to be there, never showing up. Or they come and look at something and offer you a crazy, like, hey, I'll give you $2 for it. You know, it makes more sense to me to sell 3 cars to one guy and get rid of them all at the same time for a fair price, even though I could make more money. You know, I'm sure he's going to take them home. He's probably going to part them out. He didn't act like he was going to fix any of them up. You know, he was just came and bought some Camaro parts, and he's working on a 78 or 79 Camaro. So there's probably some things that'll fit. You know, the doors will not, fenders will not. But hey, up to him. But what I'm trying to say is, I'm one of them guys that have to get a good deal. And if I can buy a package of cars, I will. One other story I got, there weren't a lot of employees in there, 100, 125. And one day, a woman came up to me and said, hey, someone was telling me you buy cars. And I said, well, yeah, no. I said, I don't buy new cars or anything. I said, I like to keep classics. And she goes, oh. She said, well, where I live out in the country, we had sold our house. And my husband liked to buy things and bring them home and just sit them around the yard. She goes, we literally have 10 cars sitting around our place. So they're in the front yard, side yard, backyard. She goes, we really need to get rid of them. Would you come out and take a look and make us an offer? Well, I went out there. They had a couple like 89 Pontiac Turbo Bonneville sitting out there, SSEs or whatever they called them. They had an old Volkswagen pickup truck sitting out there. It was diesel. They had an 87 IROC sitting out there. They had Chevettes. I mean, I don't know all of them. I can't remember all of them. But these 10 cars sitting out there were just sinking in the ground in various states. And she goes, none of them run, none of them move. We just need to get rid of them. And I looked at them and I said, man, I can't give you anything for these 10 cars. I said, scrap-wise, you're not looking at a whole lot of money, you know? And she said, well, what kind of money would you give us? And I said, I would just insult you, because I'm going to be spending days hauling them out of here, filling up tires, trying to break drums loose to get them to roll. load them and everything. I said, it'd be simpler for you just to call a salvage yard and let them buy them. They come with a rollback, pick them all up, and haul them all away. And she said, well, we already called and they offered us like $50 a car. And I said, oh, $50 a car, huh? She goes, yeah. She goes, so we're looking like $500 for all of them with them. So, oh, okay. I said, I don't know if I can do much better. So I'll tell you what, I'll give you $800 for all of them. And you're going to have to give me a couple days to get them out of here because I'm not going to be able to do it in one day. And a couple days later, she came back and said, we'll take it. We'll take the $800. And I said, do you have titles for them? She goes, we got titles for all of them. I said, okay, that's great. So out of those 10 cars, I sold the Volkswagen truck. I think I got $1,000 for it. The IROC, I got $800 for. The other cars went to the salvage yard. And like I said earlier, I know the guy at the salvage yard, and he was giving me $75 a car at the time. So that's how those all went. I was literally picking them up from her yard and dragging them to the salvage yard and get my $75 and then go grab another one. And then the ones I thought I could sell, I was bringing to my house and stuff. But, you know, that's just one of those things that fell into my lap. Those are the kind of things that I like, the things that I don't expect, and I fall into it. I love those things. But enough of me babbling. I got to go find somebody that can rebuild that hydraulic cylinder, or I got to find a reseal kit and try to do it myself. But like I say, it looks like there's rust in there, and any kind of rust means it's not going to ever seal again. If you enjoy my videos, please consider subscribing.